And we are live. For those of you tuning in for the study group, we'll be starting in about 7 minutes. If you're watching the replay, you can fast forward just a little bit. I still have a few things to do on my side, so we'll get started in just a moment. All right. Some content. Let's change the text on the website to the live link. My live A+ study group is right now. Click here to join us. Let's save that and empty all my caches. My cache monies. Let's see if I got a bunch of junk on my screen. What have I been surfing? Here we go. And there's that. In about a minute, the tweet will go out and the Facebook and the whatever. So let's try camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, camera 4. Let's try it with a little talking head up there. There we go. Was I going to fix that? No, I did fix that. Camera 3 and 4. And then later on, we'll do that. All right. It's alive. Hello, chat room. If you are joining us and you want to join in the chat room, be sure to be on ProfessorMesser.com at some place. See, I didn't take a vocal zone today. I got 5 minutes. I get 5 minutes worth of one. Then what do I do with it after 5 minutes? It's like the day after the Saturday Night Live Sunday 40th anniversary event they had. Jimmy Fallon had a show. I think the entire time he was sucking on a vocal zone. Let's listen to how things sound. That would be a good test, wouldn't it? Testing 2, 3, 4, 5. And let's see how the audio sounds if I click the play button there. 5 minutes worth of one. Then what do I do with it? All right, that sounds pretty good. I'll take it. A little QA, a little quality assurance there. Check that piece. We'll be taking calls in the second hour, so I should probably get that together, or at least get it set up here. Okay. Did that tweet go out? I think it did. The Twitter. There's my Twitter. It looks very good. Those things are there. How are we doing here? Are people watching? They are. Good. Oh, we need a presentation, don't we? And I need a way to control it, which is a different kind of problem. Okay, we are, if you're in Socrative, at Socrative.com or using the Socrative app, you should see something pop up. Let's see if we do. We do. It looks something like that. How nice. Okay. I'm digging that. Sorry, I'm smacking in everyone's ear with my vocal zone. I need to figure out what to do with this now. We got about 2 minutes to go. Let's see. I need to get rid of. Oh, let's start some recordings up. Would be a good idea. Have that going. All right. Somehow did not forget that either. Oh, we're squeaky today. Made some of those changes earlier. I think the audio is good, though. I think we're okay. All right, we're about ready to get started here. About 10 seconds anyway. Honestly, we are. Hold on a moment. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the March 2015 Professor Messer Live A+ Study Group. I'm your host, James Messer. I'll be joining you during this next hour on Pi Day here in the United States anyway, where we don't quite know how to date things properly. It's 31415, so we can all as geeks celebrate that at least. Thanks for joining us on this live study group. This is something I do every month where I ask you questions and you answer them all online. We get to see everybody's answer online. I'll show you just in a few moments how you can set yourself up to answer all of the questions online. This is something that is a lot of fun to do. I like to do this every month, and it's something that I do or can do thanks to your support. For those of you that watch all of my training videos online, of course, all of my videos, every minute of them is absolutely free for you to watch. There's also a downloadable version you can get as well. This is the downloadable version. I'll talk more about that in a moment. One thing that I do like to do is not only have this first hour where we do some Q&A, but I open the phone lines in the second hour. The phone lines are there on professormesser.com/live. You'll see the number. It's also here at 855-785-RJ45. There is also ways that you could watch us throughout the week. You can, of course, watch on YouTube and subscribe to us on YouTube at professormesser.com/YouTube. There is the Twitter at professormesser.com/Twitter. And of course, I have those 10% off vouchers available thanks to our friends at GTS Learning. You can find out more about their vouchers at professormesser.com/vouchers. For those of you that already have your A+ certification, you may be watching this for additional continuing education units. And you can, whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching this on a replay, you can get CEUs for this. You can find out more at CompTIA at this very long and involved URL, or just type into the Google machine CompTIA Renewal CEU. It will show you exactly what you need to know and what you need to do. And you'll want to listen in, because sometime during this hour, I will give you a special keyword that you will then send to me so that I can send you back a digital certificate. So it's just that easy to make that happen. I mentioned earlier, there's an offline version of all of my courses available. You don't have to watch this on YouTube. Maybe you're going somewhere on a plane. Maybe you'd like to have an offline version. Maybe you'd like to have all the slides in PDF form, or you'd like MP3 versions. You can find out more about that at professormesser.com/downloadable-A+. I've also got closed captioning and transcripts, not only on the downloadable version, but also on YouTube. And if you want the entire transcript, you can go to my website and look at the transcript underneath every single video. So if English perhaps is not your first language, sometimes I wonder if English is my first language, or you have a hard time hearing. I have family members who have difficulty hearing, so it's very important to me to have very good closed captioning and very good transcripts. These are closed captions and transcripts done by human beings. These are not automated, so you will find they are remarkably accurate. I have people watch my video and type along, so they get a lot of the nomenclature, a lot of those odd words that we use, somehow make it into the transcript just fine. I have a great service for that. There is, as I mentioned, a way that you will follow along today. So if you have not already, you can pop open a new browser window and go to Socrative.com, and you can join the Professor Messer room. Go and log in as a student, give your name, and then it's going to ask for a room. It's Professor Messer. Make sure you spell that correctly. So there is also apps that you can get for your Android device, for your iOS device, for your Windows Phone device that are specific to Socrative. Make sure you download the Socrative client or the Socrative student app so you won't be running as an instructor. So that is something that once you log in, you get into that room, you open up the app, you go to the Professor Messer room, you should see something like this where it's asking you a question: how long have you been studying for your A+ certification? And if you have a browser screen up, it looks something like this. So it will ask you, is this less than 3 months? Is it 3 to 6 months? Is it 6 to 9 months? Is it more than 9 months? Or I already have my A+ certification, stop bothering me. This is something that's useful for me to see because I like to be able to understand who's watching, what are some of the things you're doing. And what's nice on my side is I get to see how you're doing. I get to get immediate feedback, and we will all see immediate feedback on the answers that you have put into the Socrative app or the Socrative piece. There is a lot that we're going to go through today. And so I'm going to ask you lots of questions, and hopefully you'll be able to provide me with lots of answers for this. And before we get started with the next thing, I do have another announcement for those of you that have been watching these live streams over the years, and you've heard me say how important it is to subscribe to my YouTube channel. We've hit a milestone there. We have hit 100,000 subscribers to the YouTube channel. So this is something like, it's nice to have a big round number. It's nice to have a lot of people who are supporting and watching what I'm doing here. And I wanted to express my thanks to you for going out and supporting that. It helps with a lot of different things. This is what I do. This is all I do, is make these videos and put them online. So everything that you do, even something that seems as innocuous as subscribing to a YouTube channel, trust me, has enormous help on the backside of this as we're putting together these videos. So I wanted to thank you. Thank you, chat room. Thank you, everyone who is watching and who has been watching this through the years. Thanks for your emails and the comments you send me and the things you put on Twitter. I try to respond to everybody. And trust me, it is amazing what we are building here. And we're just getting started. It is remarkable how this is really going. So thanks again for everything. And I love that we hit that big round number. Thanks again for that as well. Well, let's get into the questions. There is a lot that I've put together. I try to get through all of these questions every month and get through most of them. So we're going to see how well we do with these today. I've got a lot of questions available for us to go through. Before we do that, I'll remind you, a lot of people sent me emails, and there were a number of people who registered who put this information into the registration, which is, what is the current version? Is the A+ going to change anytime soon? Should I keep studying for what I'm doing? Well, the A+ certification is currently the 220-800 series. There's an 801 exam and an 802 exam. These are really separated out quite nicely. I tend to tell people, study for one, pass that exam, then study for the second. Now, if you're somebody who's been in the industry a while, maybe you can jump in and do both of them on the same day. That's not really what I would recommend because it is such a diverse set of topics. On the 801, you've got hardware, networking, laptops, printers, and operational procedures. And on the 802 is operating systems, security, mobile devices, and troubleshooting. So it's a very different type of exam, or at least the content is very different. The exam types are really very similar because they have a maximum of 90 questions on both of these. For the 801, you have to get a 675. On the 802, you have to get a 700. And this is on a scale from 100 to 900. It's this very unusual grading scheme that CompTIA uses. Every question, we believe, is worth a different amount. So you really can't determine exactly how many questions you can get right or wrong either. So it's a little different to be able to have that happen as well. Now, the A+ exam has been out for about 2 years now, this version of it, and CompTIA tends to update it every 3 years or so. And CompTIA has said in a Facebook posting earlier or at least a few months ago. I was going to say early this year. It was probably into the end of last year, that they will be updating the A+ exam this calendar year, somewhere near the end of the year. So after summer is over, the beginning of fall timeframe, they're going to release a new version. When they do that, they overlap it so you can still take the old version for a number of months. So even if you're studying and suddenly they release a new version, you don't have to jump to the new version. You can continue with your studying. You haven't lost anything. And whether you take this version of the certification exam or the next version of the certification exam, you get the exact same certification. It doesn't have a message on the certification anywhere that says this is the version of it you took. So don't worry about which one you take. Just pick one, study for it, and take that exam. You're going to be just fine. Let's do some questions now. I've got plenty of them here for you to work on. So I'm going to move to the next question in Socrative. You can see that change in your app. And the question is, that your company has just digitally imaged a year of corporate tax documents. This is very timely because that's what I did this past week. Which of these would be the best way to dispose of the paper copies? And we've got a number of options to view. You can see that we can personally take the paper copies to the garbage bin. We can dispose of the paper at an off-site garbage facility. We can shred the paper documents. We can include the documents with other building refuse, or we can ship the paper back to the tax preparer. Let it be his problem or her problem, in my case. The idea behind this is that we have to think about security in everything we do, not just in taking care of electronic media and hard drives and flash drives and laptops, but we also have to think about paper as well. And an important part of the A+ certification is the part where we deal with security. So this is more of an 802 type question, and we have to know how to handle these types of materials. So what you'll do is go out to Socrative. Again, no answering in the chat room. So we want to keep this, everybody, it's a guessing game, and no Googling. What are you doing? Stop Googling. There is questions available to you that you'll be able to see in Socrative. Go to the Professor Messer room and you'll see that message pop up on your screen. In fact, that's where I am right now. I'm in the Professor Messer room. That's how I'm able to see these. Which is the hardest test is a really good question. And I think it's relative to what you know. If you're someone who has worked a lot with hardware, I think the 801 will be an easier certification for you to get because you have a familiarity with those topics. If you're somebody who's been working with operating systems a lot, but not really getting into the hardware kind of things, I think the 802 will be easier for you. So it's really relative to what you're doing and how that works out. Well, we've had a number of people answer. This is one of those where I think I may have started off a little bit easier than what I was expecting. At least there was one person who said there was something else they could do. Pretty much 99% of you said shred those things. And that's a relatively obvious answer, I think. And it's an important answer. And by the way, it is one of the certification objectives on the 802 exam. So you have to know about shredding those documents. And generally, in large environments, they will even have a truck pull up, a third-party shredding facility. So all you have to do is have everybody put their sensitive documents into a centralized set of containers, and then those containers are wheeled out every week or every month, and they're shredded in your parking lot. And of course, you can decide what to do with the shredding pieces after that point. A couple people did say dispose of it at an off-site garbage facility, but that, of course, makes all of that information available to someone else. Somebody who the next person who goes to the garbage facility will see all of your important documents and they can read them, which is probably the worst part about that. So we want to be sure that if we are doing anything relating to paper and security, it's really going to be shredding. And you're going to want to shred not just the paper, but you're going to want to protect the shredded information. As crazy as it sounds, cutting paper up into smaller pieces just means that it takes longer for someone to put all of those pieces back together again. But that's something that can absolutely be done if somebody really, really, really wants to do that. So some people will not only shred it, but they'll take the shredding and do something else with it. Or they'll, you notice the shredding these days go into very, very fine form, into almost a a dust-like form. It's not even confetti. And of course, a lot of people just burn them. In very high-end, secure environments, there is a process for completely burning away a lot of this content. So that's one of the things that we do have to think about with security, especially in the environments that we work in and these paper materials. All right, that was an easy start, I think. That was a good way to get this thing kicked off. So let's do another question then that deals more with hardware. We're now back to the 801 exam. And the question is, which of these interfaces would commonly be used with hot swappable external storage devices? There's going to certainly be one of these that's going to be hot swappable. It's going to be external, and we have to pick which one. The options available, actually in this case, we have to pick two. The question actually asks for two of these. So which one of these will be commonly used with hot swappable? Would it be FireWire, SATA, SCSI, USB, or PATA? It's going to be two of those. You will get questions on your A+ certification exam that will ask you for multiple answers. And one of the things that it does is it puts check boxes up on the screen. So it may be relatively obvious that they're not looking for a radio button, which is where you're selecting one. You have to select more than one. So that may be a visual cue for you to know that you should be looking for this. Even if you miss that, pick two at the end of the question. You'll see, oh, wait, this wants me to pick more than one of these because it's a box and not a little circle that I have to fill in. Another one that's really interesting is you want to go through, and if you answer and try to leave the question, it will prompt you, unless they've changed the exam recently, it will prompt you and say, wait a second, you didn't really answer the proper number. Well, I'm expecting two answers from you. So an important consideration is take the time, as crazy as this sounds, to read the questions. When I first get into my exams, I'm trying to go fast. There's a time and it's counting and I can see it in the corner and it's decrementing 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. I need to go fast, fast, fast. I don't know how much time I'm going to have left over at the end. And I stream through the questions and I will miss the word not, or I will miss the one that says pick two. And then I'm backtracking to figure out what I did wrong with that one. Again, if you would like to answer this question, you go to Socrative.com, or you pull up the Socrative app on your phone, or you just go to Socrative.com on your mobile device. Into the room, Professor Messer. Something I can't do in Socrative. If you've ever typed in Professor Messer into your browser, it actually goes to my website because I bought the domain name Professor Messer as well. And you'll notice it redirects you to the proper name. I can't do that in Socrative, so you'll have to spell it properly to get to that particular page. Sorry about that. Let's see how we did with this one. We got a number of people that have answered this one so far. So if we're choosing hot swappable, we're choosing external. So you should be looking at those keywords in the question, hot swappable and external. And we know that certain of these are external interfaces. In fact, on this list, really only 3 of them could be used externally, or generally can be used externally. And only 2 of them are hot swappable. And again, we're trying to find out the hot swappable piece to get that in there. So that's where whenever I start looking through these questions, it's almost going through and filtering out the bad stuff. We know that 35% of you said FireWire and 48% said USB. And if I go with the top 2 answers on this one, we're probably in pretty good shape there. That is probably exactly where we want to go. Now, a number of you did give other responses. So a number of you said, for instance, SATA. And SATA is a serial ATA connection. SATA is internal to your system. There is an external version of SATA, but it's called eSATA, E for external. So in this particular case, SATA would not be the proper response because we're looking for external, even if it was hot swappable, which by the way is part of the SATA spec. It's not something that's used externally. So that's not an appropriate answer. SCSI, there are plenty of, in this case, legacy SCSI physical drives that can be used externally, but these are generally not hot swappable either. And PATA is the older parallel ATA. It is the original ATA, and it is not hot swappable either. And PATA itself is one that is used on the inside of computers as well. So if we look at this answer, is it FireWire and USB? Is that where we're going with this one? If we were to look at the objectives in A+, that is exactly where they come from. Hot swappable, of course, means that we're able to unplug the drive and plug it back in. We're able to swap it while the system is running, while the electricity is going through it, while it's hot. So we can, you see this very commonly on things like this particular drive array, for instance, where you can pop a drive out. Maybe a drive goes bad, you can pop it out and pop the new drives in while the system is running, and it recognizes that the old drive was pulled out, and it recognizes that a new drive was put in. And if it's a drive array, it starts rebuilding the RAID array so that all your data remains safe. There's a lot of nice things you can do with hot swappable and hot pluggable devices. USB, of course, is built to be one that you can unplug and plug into while your system is running, and it certainly supports storage. We've also got FireWire. That's a very common standard to be able to unplug and plug in other types of devices. And there's other external hot swappable, hot pluggable storage as well. Things like Thunderbolt, which isn't necessarily part of the current A+ certification, but I think you'll see more and more of those onto other systems as well. So we did pretty good with that one. I think the folks that answered A, FireWire, and D, USB, you were absolutely correct. Give yourself a bell on that one. There is another part of the 801 exam that deals specifically with hardware. And one of the most number of questions I get deal with CPUs and deal with sockets. So the question that I have for you is specific to this type of socket, an LGA socket. So the question is, which of these are a common characteristic of an LGA socket? So again, it's a two-step process here. We have to think through the question of what characteristics are common to an LGA socket. Is it that the pins are on the motherboard? Is it that the CPU connects to the LGA with SECC? Is it that it's commonly paired with the Pentium 2 CPU? Are the pins on the CPU package? Or does the socket use less power than other sockets? So all of these are set up so that you answer one. Notice there's not multiple answers on here. I'm not asking you to pick more than one of these. Only one of these is going to be a common characteristic of LGA. What is it? That's the real question that we have to figure out. Again, no mentioning any answers in the chat room. Stop Googling. Stop looking at my video on sockets. You have to get this off the top of your head. This is exam time. We're crunching through all of these. For you to answer, bring up your Socrative app on your phone, go to the Socrative website, go to the Professor Messer room, and you will see this question has popped up and is available. I think the number of questions I get about processors and sockets probably matches laser printers by the number of questions I get. And one of the things I always recommend, because the questions that come in are that they've opened their book, and in their book are a list of 100 CPUs. And they say, which one of these CPUs do I need to know? And you need to go to the CompTIA exam objectives, because what they actually do is give you a list of sockets and then expect you to know, what do these sockets, what are they commonly associated with? If it's this type of socket, what CPU should I find in that? So you'll find you don't need to know 100 CPUs. You might need to know 7 or 8. So it's very different memorization when you get to that point. Well, because we get so many questions about sockets and about CPUs, I would expect that there would be a lot of conversation about this one. And we're kind of split on what the answer might be. We have 55% of you that said the pins are on the motherboard, 30% of you said the pins are on the CPU, and then a smattering of you have said the CPU connects with SECC. It's commonly paired with a Pentium 2. It uses less power than other sockets, but we've got a mixed answer here. It's a mixed bag. We aren't really sure what this is and what answer we're really looking for. Now, fortunately, the answer is something I have immediately available to you. This is the LGA, the Land Grid Array CPU type. This is a type of CPU package. It's not referring to a CPU. It's referring to the way the CPU is packaged and being able to add to the motherboard. You'll notice for an LGA, it's the opposite of the pin grid array. In a pin grid array, the pins are on the CPU. In an LGA, the pins are on the motherboard. They're on the LAN. They're on the motherboard, and that's why it's a little bit different. If you look at the CPU, in fact, this is the back of a CPU. I'll show you one in just a moment. It's flat. So there's no pins that you could ding by handling or dropping or doing something with the CPU. There is a number of different processors you'll find. All the latest Intel processors tend to be LGA. There is the Pentium 4. AMD has the Operand series. The Operand series has again, LGA, so you're not going to bend any pins. It's kind of nice to work with that. If you were to look at the socket itself, this is an LGA socket, a close-up of it. Hopefully you can see on the socket are all these tiny little pins. They're not sticking straight up. They're at an angle. So again, that helps with handling this whenever the CPU is put onto the motherboard and it is closed up. That socket is covered up. It's a very tight connection there, and you can see all of those individual connectors. This is the CPU in the back that's standing up, and you can see it's got a completely flat set, and it's just going to be lowered on and put right on top of that particular CPU socket. There's the LGA socket with all the pins on it. This is the back of the CPU itself. Completely flat, except for the little transistors and things that you have up here on the CPU part. But all of the individual contacts around the CPU are all flat, so you can't really mess that one up. So if you are someone who said, which one is it for LGA? Well, in LGA, the pins are on the motherboard. If you answered A, you would have gotten that one absolutely correct. And this is one of those where knowing your sockets is probably going to help you on the exam, because the sockets themselves is an important consideration. There's a nice section of sockets that you need to know, not just the socket packages, but the types of socket packages, their names exactly. And you'll find all of those in the exam objectives. We'll talk about the exam objectives in just a bit. I also want to take this time and remind you, if you're someone who's going through all of my videos and you're trying to get all of these details about sockets and about memory, and you're trying to figure out how am I going to memorize all of these things, you could just start writing very, very quickly and have all of everything that you're writing end up on your piece of paper. And that, of course, is something that you would have to do yourself. But I also make all of my course notes available to you as well. And you'll find that all of them, with all of my graphics, all of the diagrams that I create, all of the text that I build, all the tables that are from my videos are all in these course notes. My study guides have everything inside of them. I have one for the 801 exam, the 802 exam, the Network Plus, the Security Plus. I have a Microsoft 7680, and there's many more coming. You'll find out more about these if you want to see exactly what's there. I have more detail there at professormesser.com/A+SG. And if you were to look at the study guide, here it is. This is one for the 801, and there's the custom configurations, chipsets, memory types. Here's some memory information. So this is where you would get all of the details from here. In fact, there's your CPUs and sockets, and there's the Intel. Everything you need to know for Intel, in fact, is LGA. That's the only type of sockets that they talk about, the T, the B, the H, and the H2 on the exam objectives. So a lot of these things, once you put them into a diagram here and look at them, not so hard to memorize. Very, very easy now to step through and understand more of those. And I've got not just the 801, but all the 802 details with operating systems and knowing the security pieces and the troubleshooting. It's all there. And one of the things about this, of course, is that all of this, of course, goes to support the website and keep things running. This is also only $10. I like to keep the prices very low because you're already trying to study from all of the books and the other things that you have. This is something that's very economical, I think, as well. It's a PDF document. It's all electronic. The instant you buy it, it's available for you to download. It's not protected, so you can put it on all of your mobile devices. You're able to now take it with you, watch it on your laptop, watch it on your desktop computer, put it on your mobile device. You can put this anywhere, and I want it to be completely accessible as well. Find out more about that at professormesser.com/A+SG. And I think you'll also find a number of the people in the chat room and on the website in general really, really have gotten a lot out of this particular study guide. So nice to have those available. Okay, there's more questions for you. We're not done. We're just getting started. Let's go through the questions that we have. The next one that I have deals specifically with 802 type topics of Windows. And we're asking specifically about a Windows functionality called the Performance Monitor. Which of these tasks would be the best use of the Performance Monitor? So you first have to know what Performance Monitor is, and then you can apply these tasks to it. Is it to test internet bandwidth utilization? Can I run a report on memory utilization from the Performance Monitor? Can I view the details of a BSOD that occurred yesterday afternoon? This is a blue screen of net, not the BSOD that's in the chat room. Run a comprehensive memory diagnostic. Can I do that with Performance Monitor? Or can I determine which applications launch during the Windows startup process? There's a lot to Performance Monitor, but there's so many different ways to gather information in Windows. Every single one of these things can be done in the Windows operating system. I can test bandwidth, I can run a report, I can view details, I can look at memory diagnostics, I can look at applications that launch, but only one of these things is the best use of something that's inside a Performance Monitor. This brings up one of the things that is important about the A+ certification exam is they ask you for the best answer. You know, some of these things you might be able to get some information about it inside a Performance Monitor, but one of the keys to the exam is not to read too much into it. You want to look at the exam and understand it with just the information specific to that question and get an idea of the exact topic that they're trying to hone in on with those pieces. This is important not only for, of course, passing your exam, but when you're troubleshooting a performance problem in Windows, there's 3 or 4 different places you can go to get different kinds of information. So the Performance Monitor is one of those places, and there is really, really interesting information that's there that's going to help you solve those performance issues and do troubleshooting. And that's one of the reasons we go through that in the exam. So go to Socrative.com to the Professor Messer page. And one of the things that as we go through and look at the number of people answering this particular question, there is a lot of different opinions about what the answer might be. And you can see here that there is a lot of differing opinions about what the answer might be. You've got 11% that have said test internet bandwidth utilization. 53% said run a report on memory utilization. We can view the details of a BSOD. Nobody said that one. I think everybody knows where you would view the details of a blue screen of death anyway. Run a comprehensive memory diagnostic. Can you do that? 16% said yes. Determine which applications start or the Windows startup process. 18% said that one. These are not insignificant numbers. So which one would it be? If we were going to work with Performance Monitor, we were going to try to figure out how to understand what Performance Monitor does. Well, let's step through some of the main features of Performance Monitor. Performance Monitor is designed to be something that can give you a long-term view of statistics. It can, of course, give you a real-time update, second by second, as to what's happening on your system with memory, with hard drive, with CPU utilization, and with many other metrics. Once you start digging into it, you can really get into a lot of details. Now, what's nice about these metrics is that we're not just looking at them at what's happening right now, but we can collect that information over a long period of time. We can even set alerts if any of these metrics exceed or change by a certain amount so that we're immediately notified that something happened with these particular metrics. Another thing that's nice about Performance Monitor is you don't have to be there to understand what's happening on that system. Maybe somebody's complaining of times during the day where things get slow. So maybe you want to create a Performance Monitor view that is looking at CPU, it's looking at disk utilization and communication, you're looking at memory usage, and you want to collect that, and you can collect it over a very long time frame. Have it run for a day or a week, getting constant metrics about what's happening and stored in very long-term reports. So that later on, if they said, yes, it happened yesterday, what time did it happen? It happened at 3:30. Well, let me now go back to 3:30 yesterday and see exactly what was going on during that time frame. There are also a number of built-in reports where you can click one button and it will effectively go through your computer and give you a huge readout of these specific reports and metrics of what's going on your system. They're also very nice to have that immediate reporting functionality available as well. So if you're someone who wanted to look at memory over time and report on the utilization of memory over time, B would be the exact answer you would want, which is run a report on memory utilization. That is the best use. Test bandwidth utilization. One of the best ways to test bandwidth utilization is not really with Performance Monitor. You can see how bandwidth is being utilized. You can see network usage, but you can't test the utilization. Generally, you would go to a third-party site to do that. I always do a bandwidth test myself before I start the live stream to make sure that I have the utilization going and moving the way I should. Should I view the details? Nobody really said. 4% of you said view the details. That would really be the event viewer. So you can go in and look to see, oh, it had a blue screen of death yesterday at this time. There's going to be an entry in the event viewer for exactly that. Run comprehensive memory diagnostics. There is a comprehensive memory diagnostics functionality built into Windows that you can launch either from your administrative tools, or when you start up Windows, you can start your memory diagnostic there from the original installation media. And determining which applications launch during the Windows startup process. That's probably not going to be your Performance Monitor. Performance Monitor will tell you how it's performing during startup, but you'll probably want to look at the configuration, like the system configuration tool, to be able to see what applications are launching. So not only do we know the answer was absolutely B, now we sort of understand what other tools I can use to perform those particular functions on here. And if you're somebody who is really trying to troubleshoot a problem, Performance Monitor is great. It's a fantastic tool to use. I use it constantly because I'm always pushing my systems to the very, very edge. Another question, well, I guess one of the top 3 questions we tend to get whenever I'm putting together these study groups for A+, is about RAID. And RAID is a challenge because I think a lot of us aren't using RAID. You know, we're using our laptop, we understand memory, we can touch a CPU, but we don't often get put into an environment where we're building drive arrays and putting them together. So of course, I have a RAID question for you, because RAID is an important part of the A+ certification. And so we've got this one right here. So that's an easier way to look at this rather than looking at the tiny stuff on my screen. The question is, you would like to configure a RAID array that includes both striping and mirroring. Which of these RAID types would meet this requirement? So I have some options for you. This is an easier way to view them. Is it RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 5, RAID 1 plus 0, RAID 5 plus 0, RAID 5 plus 1? It's going to be one of these. It's really going to be striping and mirroring. So we're doing RAID, but we're striping and we're mirroring it. There's a lot going on here for this. Now, there's obviously important considerations when we start working with the A+ certification as to what we're doing. And I think there's really technically with this one, I think there's technically 2 correct answers. I won't ding you on this one if you picked the second correct answer. There's really only one specific to your A+ objectives, though, that I was going after here. We should probably do better QA of these questions if there's more than one answer, shouldn't we? But I think as we go through this list, some of these you'll recognize from your A+ objectives. Some of these you've never seen before. And so I think it's important to also consider that as well as we're going through and trying to understand the details of this. What are these different RAID types? I need to know them, and I need to know them pretty cold. Some of these I sort of made up. So some of these aren't even real. You might be looking at this going, wait a second, that doesn't even exist. Well, that's right. But you now have to know which one of these exist and which one of these don't. So go through this list, try to discern which one of these it might be, because I need to now break out and be able to see these pieces and be able to work with them. This is one where, as I mentioned, you have to sort of memorize this. If you're someone who's been working with drive arrays, this comes very, very obvious to you. You get used to them. It's like anything else. But if you've never touched a drive array, you've never pieced one together, you've never worked with RAID, this is more of a conceptual problem. You run into challenges trying to understand exactly what this answer might be. So we're going to, there we go. You sort of saw some of those answers pop in there for a second. We have a number of people that have answered. Let's just look at them. Let's see what people have done. Here we go. So a lot of you said, 74% of you said RAID 1 plus 0. 16% of you said RAID 5, and then everything else is in the single digits. So it's one of those, I think. If we were to break this out and try to figure out these pieces, is it RAID 5 or is it RAID 1 plus 0? And obviously one of these is going to be the one we're looking for. Well, let's break this out then and try to figure out these pieces. There are a lot of different ways to configure drives in an array. And that's what RAID is a redundant array of either independent or inexpensive, depending on which abbreviation you go with during which time frame we use that. These days, they are independent disks. RAID 0 is one that we use for striping information. We are not duplicating the exact information across multiple drives. We're putting half of the information on one drive, half of the information on the other drive. Obviously, there's no redundancy then. If we lose a drive, we've just lost half of our information, and there's no way to get that back. Again, RAID is not a backup. I think I've said that in my videos. This is not a backup mechanism. It's a way to keep running if a problem occurs with the hardware. You still have to do backups. You should always do backups as well. This is one of those where when I start working with it and trying to understand more, the striping is really for performance. If I'm really concerned about redundancy, I'm probably going to do something like this with RAID 1, where I am what we call mirroring. I'm really duplicating the information across physical drives. If I lose a drive and it goes bad and it crashes, I've got exactly the same information here. Now, that's not a backup. If somebody was to change a file, they delete a spreadsheet, it deletes it on both drives. You still have to go to backup to recover that information if you want to. But this is a good way to keep things running if you have a failure. One of the ways that you can improve the performance of this and improve the amount of space available on your drives is to do something like RAID 5. Again, we're striping, and as I mentioned earlier, striping doesn't create redundancy, but in RAID 5 we create this parity set. And the parity is going to be something that allows us to rebuild the actual data if we lose any single drive. Now, again, my question was asking about mirroring and striping. Here we're really only striping. We're just adding some parity to the mix. That's not what we're looking for as well. The type that was available on the screen that really showed striping and mirroring is a RAID type called 1 plus 0. Kind of makes sense if you look at the name. The 1 is the mirroring, the 0 is the striping. And that's what we have here is we have striping happening across separate sets of drives, but what we're doing is we are mirroring the sets. So we're stripe, stripe, stripe. We got 3 pieces in the stripe here. And as I mentioned before, if you lose one of those stripe drives in RAID 0, you lost your data. But in this case, we've got a mirrored copy of the stripe data. It's a mirror of stripes. So we've got the ability to lose any single drive in here. In fact, we could lose one drive out of each stripe pair and we'd still be up and running and we'd still have the performance benefits of striping. So that's one where we are doing both striping and we are doing mirroring at the same time. So again, it's one of those where it's a bit of an unusual one to find, but it has its niche and it works extremely well. So if you answered RAID 1 plus 0, those 75% of you, you'd be absolutely right. Give yourself a bell. Now, RAID 5 plus 0 and 5 plus 1 are the two that I made up. But if there was a RAID type of 5 plus 0 or 5 plus 1, you'd sort of be doing striping and more striping. That wouldn't make much sense. You could be striping and mirroring. That's why I said RAID 5 plus 1. If it was something real, that could be a possible answer. But since it's not real, it's not really a possible answer. Your answers are going to be something between A, B, C, and D. The answer D, RAID 1 plus 0. So that gets us to quite a bit into the RAID piece. And if you're going to be taking your exam and working with your exam, make sure you get into the RAID pieces and understand those extremely well. There is also a section of the exam on the 801 exam that deals with networking. So let's look at this networking question that I have available. This is one that talks about standards for network standards. Actually, some of this could be applied to some of the networking piece. Certainly network standards, RC4 with TCP. Which of these network standards use RC4 with TKIP? Now, we know it's going to be one of these. And if you go to Socrative, you'll be able to see that as well. If I change the question on my side, I'll be able to see it too. One of the challenges when you get into networking, and I see this a lot when I start getting into networking, is there are so many different numbers and letters combined together to create things. The A+ exam gets into a little bit of that. Folks that are studying for their Network Plus exam, they're just overwhelmed with acronyms, tons of abbreviations, and they're just smothered with them. That's one of the big problems a number of people have with that. So one of these network standards, I'm going to test you on your acronyms, use RC4 with TKIP. Is it WPA, AES, WAP, WPA2, WEP, or WPS? These are all real things. I didn't make any of these up this time. These are all completely legitimate types of network. In fact, they're all networking technologies. One of these uses RC4 with TKIP, whatever that is. So we not only have to know what RC4 with TKIP is, now I have to know pretty much what all these other things are as well. I think I understand more now about the frustrations with dealing with networking technologies. I come from a strong networking background. I did a ton of networking down at the packet level. I love getting into understanding how things work. And I think understanding how a network operates helps you everywhere. It helps you with computer management. It helps you with deploying patches. It helps you with database management. It helps you with development work. It helps you in data center administration and operations. It helps you everywhere. So although it seems a little overwhelming, when you start working with it day to day, it just becomes the normal thing. So don't be too blown away by all of these different words and phrases and meanings, because ultimately when we get into this, and no Googling, stop Googling this, when you start getting into this, there is quite a mix, and we're really not sure what the answer is with this one. We are across the board, these different technologies. We got WPA, 12% at AES, 39% at WPA2. I guess that's the leader. WPA and WPA2 are the two biggest here. And WEP is 11%, still in the double digits. Not too many people said WAP, and not too many people said WPS. So it's going to be one of these. There's a bit of a mixed bag here as well to determine what these things are. So let's focus in on what RC4 and TKIP are. We need to understand what those technologies might be. So I've got information right in front of us that will allow us to understand that a little better, RC4 and TKIP. So we can see WPA is RC4 with TKIP. TKIP stands for the Temporal Key Integrity Protocol. This is a bit of a challenge. Whenever we were using the WEP encryption standard. I don't have the WEP slide here, but I think we all understand at this point, don't use WEP. In fact, on the latest wireless technologies, you'll find you don't even have the option for WEP. It was an encryption mechanism that we used initially on our 802.11 wireless networks that we found significant cryptographic flaws in. It is remarkably hackable. You can get into any WEP encrypted network that you would like. It's so simple to do this in Windows, in Linux, on your iOS device. There are so many ways to hack WEP. It's incredibly insecure. So of course, nobody uses it. Well, then we ran into a problem. Immediately, we needed to be able to still use our wireless networks, but not swap out all of this hardware. Encryption is a hard thing to do. It uses a lot of CPU cycles, in some cases very specialized hardware, chips that are designed to do this so that it runs very, very fast. It's not something where you can simply change the way you're doing encryption and expect all of these devices to be able to handle it. And especially at that time, when we were converting over to these different versions like WPA, there weren't these high-end fast CPUs available. We were still in the very beginnings of trying to get these wireless networks going. So WPA uses a similar encryption mechanism as WEP. It uses RC4. That didn't change. And that way we could still use the same hardware, but we changed the way we have the information encrypted. We, for instance, change every packet so it has a different encryption key using this temporal key integrity protocol. And it was a bit of a workaround. We knew that this wasn't what we wanted to do full time, but this gave us a way to use exactly the same hardware for the vast majority of these access points and simply load new software on it that would now be more secure than it was. And in fact, this was a pretty secure way to do it. There have been now, since that time, a number of security problems that we found with TKIP that really have us move away from WPA as well. These days, if you're going to be doing certification or doing any type of wireless encryption, you want to use the one that was certified in 2004, the WPA2. This is what we're using today. It's been around for quite a while now. It's been running quite nicely with really no cryptographic problems associated with it. It's using AES instead of RC4, and it's using CCMP instead of TKIP. So you might be asked which wireless encryption type is using AES. And you have to maybe give you a list of those. And you have to know, oh, that's WPA2. Which one's using RC4? It's WPA. And that's why we put these on these slides so you could see those. You may also see WPA2 Enterprise. And that incorporates something called 802.1x, where you have to provide some credentials that will then be checked against some type of database of names, like an Active Directory server or Radius server, a TACACS server, something in the background that's doing that check. So for us, something that's going to be using RC4 with TKIP, if we go back to our question, RC4 with TKIP is going to be WPA. If you answered A, WPA, the 28% of you this time, not the majority, the 28% of you got that one absolutely right. Really 41%, not a majority here, is it? Not the highest number. The second highest number was correct in this case. If you answered A, you got that one absolutely correct. It's one of those things when I start going down the list of things that I need to know, that's on the checklist. That's why you'll find those in my study guides. It's something to have available as well. Another thing I like to also mention is on the A+ exam, you may have to do these performance-based questions, a number of labs associated with this. And one of the things that becomes a challenge then is I need to be able to have hands-on with these labs. I need to be able to really understand how to run things at a command line, how the organization of this data is moved, how I'm able to match things together or fill in the blanks. These could all be these types of exams. So one of the things that I like to remind everyone is that there are labs available for the 802 from GTS Learning. These are the freestyle labs, and the freestyle labs provide you with a way to have all of this equipment, all of this network, all of this software available in one place on the web. It's all in the cloud. You don't have to have any special hardware locally. You don't have to have anything locally. You just have to have a browser and you're able to work with these labs. These are the freestyle labs. There are tons of support skills, Windows 7, system administration, user account management, disk management, file management, etc., etc. Let's go into the details of the boot troubleshooting. We'll just pick one here. There's different layouts, and here's different exercises on the left. Here's a boot device here, a single device that I might work with, and I can power it on here at the bottom of my screen. Notice there is, I'm going to turn on the HTML5 here, so I don't even have to have extra software. It's going to use the built-in capabilities of my browser to be able to work with this. I also have inside of this labs available for all of these pieces. My practice labs and the exercises for these are set up so that I can work with and step through step by step in a very easy way all of these pieces. There is in Freestyle Labs not just the labs themselves, but I also have the entire GTS Learning book is available online. My videos are integrated into all of those book pieces. So when you're reading about the boot process, you'll read in the book and there's my video that talks about it. So you're getting immediate feedback in different ways. If you're somebody who reads and then wants more explanation, it's right there on the page. You click play. And it's very easy to work with those. Another thing that I find when I'm working with this is that it becomes very, very easy for me, especially as I go through these pieces, to move around. It's effectively a sandbox. You don't have to follow the labs themselves. You could simply go to the lab and work through those pieces. And I think I showed you there were so many different labs available. We'll come back to the boot lab in a moment. Testing network connectivity, remote desktop, Windows networking. I can go into any one of these and start working through the labs themselves and understanding the pieces of it. There is a lot that I could step through. And maybe this is where I change the resolutions available to me. I change the way this works. I can change, in fact, on my screen, this is a good way to do it, is work with my screens that way, because now I can have and show you on the screen at the same time all the different lab pieces. Here's my boot device. Oh, I had this set back to Java. Let's change it to HTML5 and try that again. Did I already change it on my screen? I must have. Well, we'll start it up with the other piece then on those exercises. This is where, when I start getting into this piece, sure, you can run. Am I getting a message for running this? Go ahead, run Java. There we go. So you could run this, pop up these remote desktops, and now I've got a full and complete system to work with. This is when I start using this, and I don't need anything extra. This is where I'm also able to step through different topics. When I started working with, let's not install an update. Now I'm trying to demonstrate something and trying to update at the same time, and that's not going to work either. Let's see if I can do the boot troubleshooting. So I would like to do it, and we'll do it with HTML5 this time. There we go. Forget Java. Who wants to use Java? You have to go through all that update. Here's Java. Why didn't I just use HTML5? Boom, it's right there on the screen. So now I've got a full Windows view. Let's try to make this so you can see it a little bit better. Save those settings. So not only do I have on the screen, yeah, that looks good. We'll keep that one. Is there anything else I have to do? So on my screen, I not only have the remote desktop that I'm working with, I've got also all of my labs. They're here on the right. Kind of hard to see because I don't have much bandwidth available on my labs either. But let's connect to and show you that. Am I connected to it? Oh, I suspended it accidentally. Just when I wanted to show you the pieces of it. Let's turn her back on. This is where, whenever I start getting into dealing with labs and working with them, this is where it really comes in handy, because I can pop open and work with them all the time, anytime during the day. Whenever I subscribe to this, it's something I can use for an entire year. So it gives you plenty of time for studying. And the other piece when I'm working with this is I'm able now also to try it for an hour. If this is something you think you might want, but you're not quite sure, go ahead and try it out. Use it. Start up one of the labs themselves and step through the pieces of it and see if it's something that works for you. An entire hour of this is available absolutely free, and you can find out more about that at professormesser.com/freestylelabs. And when I restart this this server, I'm going to show it to you eventually. But let's do a question first, because I have one for you dealing with plasma displays. This is where, whenever I start getting into hardware in my system, there are so many different display types that I would want to work with, and plasma displays is certainly one of those. Whenever I look at these characteristics associated with a plasma display, you're going to want to see if you can answer some of those questions about these, because plasma displays are pretty unique in how they operate. So the possible answers with this are that the plasma display must be air-cooled after it's used. It uses a vacuum tube and electron gun. It uses LED backlights instead of fluorescent, or it has very fast response times. Now, one of these is going to be most associated with a plasma display. Of course, plasma displays have many, many, many other characteristics associated with them. But this is just one way that you could go through and understand which one of those is really specific. Only one of those is really going to be specific to a plasma display. So absolutely go through that list and see if you can find which one of those it's going to be. Again, you can go to Socrative.com into the Professor Messer room to be able to view those pieces. So let's see how we did with that one. I don't think I viewed very many or fooled very many people with this one, although we've probably got a smattering of things. Maybe this is another one of those where everybody jumped on one answer, but in reality, it's really going to be one of those others. Let's see if this is really the case, because I have only 5% of you said air cooling. I think that would be kind of crazy if every time we used a display, we had to cool it down after use. That's more of one of your LED, LCD type projection displays. We don't use those very often, do we? Does it use a vacuum tube and electron gun? That number is decreasing rapidly. So now we got two really here. Does it use LED backlights instead of fluorescent, or does it have very fast response times? It's going to be one of those. So let's look at a plasma display and what it really is. It's a very tiny set of cells that are all grouped together to make this screen. If we were to look very close, we'd be able to see all of those. And they have effectively inside of them a plasma. They have this noble gas, and they have mercury inside of them. And when you add voltage to that, that's when you're putting that together and creating the plasma itself. That's what creates the light. So this is really useful if you wanted to get a very specific set of colors and you wanted to have it work very accurately. Plasma displays are great for this because, for instance, an LED backlight or an LCD backlight has to shine through whatever you have in front of it. And because of that, the blacks, if you're dealing with a traditional LCD display, the blacks aren't as black as they could be because there's a light behind them. And some of that light leaks through even though that LED is powered down, sort of like seeing light through your hand kind of thing. Well, with a plasma display, to get black, you just don't put any power through it. There's no backlight, so you get very, very good blacks, very good type of contrast because of that. And it's a very good representation. A lot of people who love their movies love plasma displays for that very reason. They do use a lot of power, though. And interestingly enough, they don't work very well at high altitudes. They also want to avoid radio interference getting there because that affects the way that the electricity is being sent to those tiny cells and provides that plasma view. So if we were trying to answer this particular question, which one of these? Is it the air-cooled after use? Is it the vacuum tube? Nope. Uses backlights? Nope. It is a very fast response time. So for 64% of you that said, is it the fast response time? You'd be absolutely correct. That is your correct answer, 64%. In this case, the majority did answer that one. Absolutely correct. And if you're someone who is watching this for your CEU credits and you're trying to get those, I mentioned that you could get those by sending me a code word. That code word in this particular case would be plasma. And you would send that to me by going to the top of the Professor Messer website to the Contact Us link, which is really contact me, and send me a message. All it has to have in it is your accurate email address, your name, and the word plasma, and I will send you a digital certificate back. I'll reply to you and say, yep, you must have watched this because you got the name absolutely right because you knew what this was. And that's where, when I start getting into this, I really like dealing with all of these different technologies. Plasma has its advantages and its disadvantages, but that's where, whenever I get into this, very, very useful to have that available to me. The idea behind using this this mechanism for asking questions and getting answers is nice to have. We're not actually going to do the next question on this because we're running a bit out of time. But what I am going to do is show you. We'll go back to our live results here. I want to jump ahead because another question I get, a very popular question I get, deals specifically with the exam itself. And it is unfortunate in the chat room. I'm in the chat room all the time during the week, during the day, during the night. It's always up on my screen somewhere. And people will come in and say, I didn't do well on my exam. I was so close, but they asked me questions. I had no idea what they were talking about. I got questions that had nothing to do with anything. I had never seen this content before. So because of that, I always recommend you should absolutely grab the objectives. Go through and understand exactly the objectives. There is a huge amount of content in the objective list, and you should absolutely go through them because it will tell you exactly what you need to know. There's not any question. I'm going to pull up the 802 objectives just to give you a feel of this, just so you understand what I mean. And for those of you that have watched my study groups before, I say this every time. And I say it every time because every month people come to me and say, is this on the exam? Is that on the exam? I say, go to the objectives. It tells you everything. For instance, operating systems. Hey, is Windows XP on the exam? Is Windows 8 on the exam? Is Windows 10 on the exam? Here's the list of operating systems. Compare and contrast the features and requirements of various Microsoft operating systems. XP Home, XP Professional, XP Media Center, XP 64-bit Professional, Vista Home Basic, Home Premium, Business, Ultimate, Enterprise, Windows 7 Starter, Home Premium, Professional, Ultimate, Enterprise. That's it. Those are the only operating systems you need to know. And for those of you in the chat and throughout the month that will say, Windows XP, what are you talking about? There's a lot of Windows XP out there. If we have time during the after show, I'll bring up some of the statistics from my website to just show you how many people are still using Windows XP out there. It's still an operating system we need to know about. And it's especially helpful if you want to be able to migrate people off of that operating system. We first have to know the operating system from whence they came. So make sure you understand all of those. Windows 8 not on here, 8.1 not on here, Windows 10 not on here. Everything you need to know is in this list. So go through the list. Use it as a checklist. When you know that topic, check it off, go the next one, and then you'll know exactly when you'll be able to walk into your exam because you've been able to check out and check off most everything on this objective list. I think it's an important part for the exam. Make sure you think about it and are covering those types of things when working with these certifications. It's incredibly important. And unfortunately, CompTIA is really the only one who really does this to this degree. If you go after your A+ or Network Plus or Security Plus, and you go take a VMware or a Microsoft or Cisco or a Checkpoint or Palo Alto Networks or whoever out there, you go take their certifications, what you're going to find is their objective list is a page long and there's no detail there at all. Kind of a shame, really, but that's how it works in this particular world. We kind of take what we can get. In those cases, get the book from that manufacturer. It's probably going to have all the detail you'll need to know. Well, we've come to very quickly. That happened. How are we at the end of another hour? Instantly, it's over. But there's plenty more resources and things to hear. If you're going to, if you're here live and you're watching, we got an after show. We've got call-in lines. There's still plenty more we're going to do here. We're going to finish up the Q&A part. However, I want to remind you that we have our daily A+ pop quiz that I send out over Twitter. You can, of course, get that in your Twitter feed at professormesser.com/Twitter. Again, we hit the 100,000 mark, but having those subscriptions to YouTube is incredibly important. You can find out more at professormesser.com/YouTube. I want to remind you that my study guides, my quick reference guides, my course notes, whatever we're going to call them eventually, you can find at professormesser.com/A+SG. Thanks again to GTS Learning. Again, special pricing on that freestyle is only available if you follow this link at professormesser.com/freestyle labs. Of course, I do these every month. You can always check in on what we're doing. If you look at the calendar at professormesser.com/calendar, we'll do a Network Plus again next Saturday. So be sure to join me for that. You can always check in on the calendar and see what we're doing. And that gets us to the end of this. I want to thank everyone for joining me. This has been really a fantastic month. And I look forward to so many, many more of these. And I couldn't do it without you. Thanks again for everything. We'll see you next time on the A+ Study Group. Good studies, everyone. That was a lot in a very short period of time. That just flew through. I just instantly we were finished with that one. Not sure what happened there. I'm gonna have to go back and see why I can't click the right thing on my screen. Because now finally, of course, I've got the remote desktop up. Should just let it run. Always when you're live is when things are going to happen. When you're working through these pieces. Pulled up the event viewer one so we can see these pieces. It's a full-blown Windows. This is nice. I sometimes will have a question about something and I'm not at my machine that has all my VMs on it. So I'll just pop into here and run a Windows session and see, is that in the control panel? Where was that again? I'm having a moment and I just hunt it down and find it through this piece. It's very useful to have there. There is, let's see. Oh, I need to open up the phone lines. Would be nice to have that going. Would it not? I've got to get that done. So let's, there's a button I have to push somewhere to be able to make that happen. Here it is. Here it is. I should really do it here. Let's host a show. Let's host this show. Sorry, everyone. This is a thing I set up so I can answer your questions here in the cloud. I don't have a bank of phone lines coming into the studio here. I simply have a phone that I call, and you call into that phone. It's remarkable. The internet, it could be such a great thing. Let's call it and make it connected. So you'll hear this noisy thing happening for a moment.
Thank you for calling.
You're welcome.
And call screener.
Yes.
Please enter your show number.
Okay, I'll do that. Enter my show number.
Enter your 6-digit PIN number.
Oh, my special 6-digit PIN number is one of these. All right.
Welcome, host. You are now in the host room and can manage your callers from the call-in studio web interface. Thank you for letting me manage this from the call-in. It's kind of nice, isn't it? Okay, some of you tried calling in real quick there. You may have gotten the voicemail. You can now call back in. We're going to get people queued up. So I have things to talk about, but we're just going to have to go straight to the calls because I have the 502 area code. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
This is Ben, Professor Messer.
It's Ben. Hello, Ben. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Though I do want to talk about some stress issues I have with my laptop, if that's all right.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah, I just wanted to discuss something. I've actually thought about taking the A+ a couple times, and I actually did a class on that in high school, and I only got a 41% for, it isn't very clear in my memory. But,
how's the rest of high school for you there, Ben?
Yeah, well, I went to it in 2010 was when I graduated, and I took the A+ course in my senior year. I'm 23 years old now, and I wanted to just briefly touch on this because I felt very intimidated taking the course, and things just didn't work out because, some things that the book wasn't very clear to me, and I didn't know a heck of a lot about computers back then. I was just getting acquainted with reinstalling operating systems,
Gotcha.
Things like that. And I had a Windows Vista AMD low-end laptop at the time. I personal opinion, Vista was just crap back then. It wasn't very good.
I don't think that's you're not the only one with that personal opinion, I don't think.
Right. And so I downgraded it to XP, and I was just getting acquainted with Linux and that sort of thing, and I felt XP at the time was a better OS, and I still feel that way till today. Anyway, so what my concern is the fact that I have read some of the A+ book on a PDF, and I felt it was very well written and that sort of thing, but reading it just I feel is kind of intimidating, and I've dabbled with operating systems since 2007 or 8, I want to say, and I felt that I want to expand my horizons and find out more about the technology and computers and stuff. And I think that your A+ videos are very good. There's no question about that. And I've looked at some of them, and they're very, very helpful and that sort of thing. But, see, I got Asperger's, OCD, ADHD, the whole 9 yards, and no disrespect, but learning through reading material and that sort of thing is kind of difficult, as I'm sure you know, with ADHD, and it's kind of hard to focus in on certain things without losing my focus and interest level for less than a second. So I'm not sure what your opinion is on that as far as learning computers and that sort of thing, because I prefer, strangely, the hands-on things, and I was wondering what suggestions you have as far as that kind of situation.
I have family members who are on the autistic spectrum. They are, I guess it's the Asperger's type side of thing. It is a challenge because there are certain things that work well for somebody who is in the case of where focus is the issue. And it's not just focus, it's the type of focus. I think I might have some of this because I find reading a book for me can be one of the most ponderous things of technical information, can be extremely difficult for me to focus on. But if I'm watching someone do it, I get a better idea of what's going on there. In fact, I can really focus on a lot better.
And Professor, one thing that I've always found, and I know this may sound crazy, but one thing I've always found for me that helps me get familiar with something is remote assistance when it comes to technology. I don't get why, but sometimes reading instruction for me is just a pain in the neck, and I have to have someone remote my system, whether it's paid or not, to get familiar with something. I don't get it. It's just like I have to go on Skype or I have to go on TeamViewer or whatever just to get that little bit of information grained in my head for some nefarious reason. I don't understand why, but for some reason with my autism, it's just like I have to have that remote assistance just to get familiar with some things, and I just learned better that way. It's just strange.
It's actually not so strange when you start breaking it down and working with it. And that's one of the things when I look at the ways people they're going through the process of studying, they're trying to figure out the best way to do this. I always say, don't use any one thing. Get a good book, get a video course, watch mine, watch anybody else's, get a good Q&A. Sometimes I think reading is good, but for me, I learn when things are broken, and maybe something like the Live Labs would work when there's an actual Windows machine up. You can click on different pieces. It's already broken, and it wants you to solve a particular kind of problem. Get a good Q&A guide. Q&A is another one where it's a short little hit, so I can read a question, I can get the answer, and then maybe have a quick synopsis of what the answer is. And when I start going through each one of those, I tend to get a better idea of exactly where I should be going with my studying process. Because I think whenever I'm trying to go through and read, I can click something and see a response of that and understand that better than if I just read, click this, look at this other piece, and try to fit those pieces together. And I think as people start working more and more with the different ways of learning, and as we as a society are getting better with how people learn, I think just in the last few years we've seen a dramatic change there. I think YouTube videos and swapping and reversing the way classrooms are working, where the lecture is done at home and the hands-on is done in the actual room, I think have amazing advantages over some of the learning. I can talk for an hour about training and learning and how we're changing things, because it's very important to the things that I do. But hopefully that's given you some ideas of things that you could do to solve some of those problems well.
Yes, exactly. I think I am going to continue the A+ studying, and I appreciate you taking my call, because you've sort of given me an idea as to what I need to do is the A+ course. Now, another question.
Yes, quickly. I've got a bunch of people in the queue. I don't want to have them holding for too long.
Exactly. This is kind of quick. So I want to ask one more thing. Where do you suggest I go for my case as far as learning the A+, in your opinion?
I think for you, it's going to be a mixture of different things. I think it's going to be.
Yes, I got that.
I think it's going to be video. I think it's going to be, I think a book actually does have value. And I think in your case, the book is going to be your second or third reference rather than your first reference. It's going to be for those things that, wait, I don't understand what he said in the video, or I'm not catching the piece in the Q&A of why they asked that. I need to go look up just that little piece of why that particular answer was the correct one. Okay. There's a lot of online resources too. The chat room that's on the Professor Messer website's there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I've paid so that it's always there and available for you. Maybe asking people questions, there's another good way, because you can ask it, get your answer, and get back to what you were doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, okay. Well, thanks for your time, and if I have any other questions, I'll come back another time. And,
please do. There's a contact us link at the top of the website. I look at all the mail coming through or try to answer all of them. So let us know how it goes, Ben.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
That's one of the biggest challenges, I think. I learn in different ways. I'm not really a book reader. So occasionally there's the only way you know about certain things is you have to read the book. Someone said, you need to read that part of the RFC. Have you ever read an RFC? I have to go read the RFC now. So find the one that works for you, and I think you'll be better off. Let's go to the 267. I think this was the first person who had called in earlier. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
Yes, James. This is Mark.
Hey, Mark. How are you, sir?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm still studying, and I talked to you about a month ago, and I talked to you in the chat room also, and I didn't expect you to be in the chat room, and all of a sudden you showed up and you answered my question very quickly, and I appreciate that.
I'm like the wind, Mark. I'm through there. Nobody knows I'm there. Suddenly I'm gone. It's a mystery.
Well, I have this question, James.
Okay.
When taking the test, when you're marking your answers, I don't want to get into the room and be thrown on how to mark the answers, and it slows me down. Is marking the answers made simple once you're there taking the test? You know what I mean?
I do, and it's very simple. The screen itself, when you're taking the exam, is very sparse. It's the only window that can be on the screen. It gives you a question at the top. It gives you the question. There's the possible answers. Sometimes there's a figure. Most often there is not. And then at the top right of the screen is an option for mark, and it's just a checkbox that you can mark it. You can flag it on or off. You can checkbox the checkbox, and you can go to the next thing. So that's an easy process. In fact, what I tend to do, because some questions I'm 100% sure on, but my first time through an exam, I'm trying to go very fast. And if I'm not 100% absolutely certain that I got the answer, I'm maybe even 99.9%, but it's not 100, I check the mark button. And that's just my style of doing things. Maybe you set a different level when you're going through yours, but I click the mark box and I go to the next one. Now, the CompTIA exams are what we call linear exams, in that you can move anywhere within the exam you would like. Some exams from other manufacturers are adaptive, which means once you answer the question, you can't go back. The A+, the Network Plus, the Security Plus exams from CompTIA allow you to go back. You can mark that answer and go back to it. And you can go all the way to the end, and it brings up a final summary view of every question. It tells you what you marked right on every single question. So it says 1A, 2B, C, D, and E. And then it has a note next to it that says you marked this one. And you can easily just double click on that question to go directly back to that question and see, why did I mark this? Okay, I'm 99% sure. Let's unmark it and go back to the main summary view. So not only is it easy to mark, it's easy to find the ones that you have marked, and you can bounce back and forth amongst all of those. And sometimes that helps me, because some of the answers or questions later on in the exam will answer what they asked earlier at the exam. So you end up getting a couple of questions right just because they asked some questions later on. And because I marked it, I can find it then and go back and answer it correctly.
Okay, then, and I have one more question, if you can answer this for
Sure.
me. The Secretive, I thought I sent my questions to you correctly, but I'm not sure. I sent it. It says choose multiple choice, and it says hit the finish button. I think I did that right. What is the correct way to make sure my answers got straight through to you from Socrative?
Well, with Socrative, it's relatively easy. As soon as you hit the answer, in fact, I probably have one up on the screen that I was still running. I think my Socrative is still there. Is it not? I will find it. Where's my Chrome? Here's my Socrative. So I still have the last question up. When you choose the one you want, and notice that you can choose multiples on the screen. So you have, if I'm asking for one, you really need to choose the right one. And once you submit the answer, then it tells you the response was submitted. It may not show exactly that screen on your mobile device or on another screen, but it tells you, yes, I submitted that. And at that point, it shows up on my screen here. I see at least the summary answer. I don't collect everyone's individual answers, but at that point, that's when it pops up, and you'll even see those dials moving on my screen when it does that.
Yeah, I didn't see that at all. I seen something different on my Socrative. It didn't look like what I'm looking at on the screen on my computer. See, I'm not sure if it even went through.
I bet it did. It gives you that feedback, and I don't use the mobile device myself. I probably should. And I should do a video of that, of how to do it, so that whenever somebody's coming into the group, they could always look at that to see, is that working the way I would expect? And maybe somebody, if
And it did say,
well, let's do
it
this.
did say live result. Yeah. It did say live results, so it probably went through, but I just didn't notice any indication that would let me know that it did go through. So you say it probably did go through then.
It probably did, and I bet I can look at a report later and see exactly what came through from everyone. But even if it didn't, of course, you get to see on the screen, here's what the correct answer is. So at least you will know. It's not like I'm sending you a report card, so you're still gonna be good. You'll know you got it right.
Thanks a whole lot.
Absolutely, and
I appreciate your help very much.
thanks for calling, and thanks for attending, and we'll see you in the next one.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks,
Take
Mark.
care.
There's a lot to Socrative. Socrative's been great. I used to use another service for this, and every question I would have to set up individually, independently, and put the question in. Socrative does all of this, and they do it for free. I'm not sure what the catch is there. And they keep saying it's going to be free forever. Okay. Well, let's go 630 area code. Are you there, caller?
Hi,
Hi, what's your name?
my name is Syed.
Hello, Syed. How are you, sir?
I am fine. I'm calling from Chicago.
Well, welcome. What can we do for you? What question do you have?
I have two questions. First question is like, my exam is in April first week, so I scheduled 802 on the April first week,
Nice.
and the next day is 801.
Oh, wow. Okay, you're going to just do one day and one the next day then.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have a question. So you go to exam, you did 1 to 10 questions. So between 1 to 10, there is one question you say like I have taught. So there will be option flag, and at the last of the test at the end, you before submit the flag questions will come, and then you can justify your answers there.
You can, because that's what I do is I go all the way through the certification exam. I'm marking questions, flagging questions all the way through. Before you get to the end, before you submit anything, it brings up a summary screen. In fact, there's no possible way for you to accidentally submit your exam and not go through these things. Because even after you say, okay, I'm ready to submit, it pops up a message that says, oh, are you sure? You ready to submit? Are you absolutely positive? So you have to at least go through 2 extra hops before you even do that. So it will absolutely bring you to that final summary screen. And it's a great hopping off point, I think.
Yeah, that's right. And my second question
Yes.
is, I'm just like reading, I'm watching your videos like every night in the morning, and I'm doing the exam cram questions. It has 800 questions.
Yeah, that's great.
And so far I did like 600. But when the result comes, the score, the total comes, it doesn't make me happy. What should I do?
That's not an uncommon thing to have happen, quite honestly. I really do like the exam cram books. I know I talk a lot about GTS Learning. They're a partner of mine. People that buy their materials does go back to help support the site. There's a lot of really good resources out there, and the Exam Cram is one of those. Exam Cram has a questions book. It's an exam practice book. It's nothing but questions, and it sounds like that's the one you have. There's so many questions in that list. And they're very good questions. They're very high quality questions. So I like their book, not just because there's lots of questions, but they're good questions as well. The challenge, of course, is you have to get them right. And it's a challenge, of course. You don't want to memorize questions. You want to understand the questions. One of the things I like about the Exam Cram, and this might help you as well, is if you get a question wrong, you now have the opportunity to understand why you got the question wrong. And Exam Cram not only gives you a short answer that the answer was D, but they then give you a long, detailed answer explaining why questions A, B, and C were not correct and why question D was correct. And I always recommend you read through those. And I think getting questions wrong is an opportunity to learn something. That's probably when you learn the most. You get them right. Even if you're guessing, you really haven't learned anything. So if you know the topic, that's a little bit different, of course. But go through the Exam Cram detailed description and understand exactly what it's asking of you. I'll also recommend that you go through the exam objectives. They're a master checklist. So if you can go through each bullet of the exam objectives and check off, yes, I know that, yes, I know that, yes, I know that, then you'll at least feel very good about walking in and taking the exam, especially if you're planning to do them one day after the other. You've got a lot of information to study.
Okay, so as per you, follow the exam objectives and watch your videos and stick to the exam crams, and you will be fine, I think.
And since there are performance-based questions on the exam, you may want to consider, at least at a very minimum, trying that freestyle, the freestyle labs for an hour anyway. That way, if there is something that you're trying to get more familiar with at the command line, or you're trying to understand more about how Windows operates in that scenario, or you want to run through some of the repairing of a master boot record, you can do that in the lab without affecting any of the materials you have in your personal computers or someone else's computer.
Oh, okay. Because whenever I watch your videos, some of the commands which I know, which I want to run on my personal computer, I do that, and then I feel like, oh, this is a good one. And thanks for Professor putting these things and making things easy for us.
Great, Sayed. Thanks for calling, and let us know how it goes with your exams.
Yeah, I'm gonna contact you today for some different stuff.
Okay.
Buy some stuff. Okay.
Sure. Send me a link from the website that contact us. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
Take care. There's 2 exams back to back. One day and another day. Okay. You do that. He just wants to get it over with. I understand completely. Let's go to 573. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
Hello.
Hello. Who is this?
Hello. Professor Messer, this is Brian.
Hello, Brian. What can we do for you, sir?
Well, I'm calling from the Lake of the Ozarks, dead center in the United States.
Nice.
We don't have many training centers here, and I actually have my A+ certification.
Congratulations.
Which thank you. I owe it almost entirely to you. Your videos I found extremely helpful, and I practically aced the 801.
Well, you had to do the hard part, of course.
I think the hardest part is stressing through that test. But
I agree.
But, I'm trying to, of course, work on the Network Plus, and I want to do the Security Plus
Sure.
too. But I'm also concerned about the continuing education aspect.
Right.
And I'm of course going to send you the code word I already have actually.
Great.
For today's show, but I wonder, am I able to get credits for the replays?
You are. In fact, if you go to CompTIA's website, their continuing education program details all. It's a bit of a lot to read, quite honestly, because there's so many different ways to renew your certifications. For those of you that aren't familiar, when you pass your A+ or your Network Plus or your Security Plus or your CASP exam and a few others, you can see the certifications out there, the Cloud Plus, the Storage Plus, the Mobility Plus. These are all exams that expire 3 years after you pass them. So when you walk out and you've passed your exam and you get the certification, so you pass your second A+ exam, the clock starts ticking for 3 years. During that 3-year period, you can now work on renewing that for another 3-year period, and you do that by accumulating continuing education units. There's a description of how to do that on the website. The way that you do it, really 3 ways. Really 2 ways and one extra. You can get a higher level CompTIA certification. So let's say you were working towards your Network Plus. When you pass your Network Plus, it automatically renews your A+. If then you go get your Security Plus and you pass that, it will automatically renew your Network Plus and your A+ and everything. The clock starts from when you pass that higher level exam. A benefit from getting a CompTIA higher level certification is not only that it's going to renew your other certifications, but it doesn't cost anything. One of the things you'll find is that there are these maintenance fees that are required if you're going to do anything else but pass a higher level CompTIA cert. So if you want to do it you know you're going to get a Network Plus anyway, and you want to do this the least expensive way, just get your Network Plus sometime in the next 3 years, and it's going to renew your A Plus automatically. So that might be the easiest way to do it. You could also take other industry certifications from, let's go to A Plus, for example, from Aruba, Checkpoint, Cisco, CompTIA, CWNP, eCouncil, EMC, GIAC, HP, IBM, et cetera, Juniper, Microsoft, Novell, Oracle, Red Hat. You take any one of these certifications and you're going to get CEUs that can then immediately be applied to the A Plus. And in this case, every single one of these exams provide you with 20 CEUs, which would then give you enough CEUs to then renew your A Plus, because your A Plus requires 20 CEUs to be able to do that. Unfortunately, if you go that route, Microsoft, Cisco, Checkpoint, and the others, you have to pay the annual maintenance fees to be able to renew. But sometimes that's the best option. So at least you have the option available. Then, let's say you're not planning to take the exam, you could then do something else. And CompTIA has this big list of all the activities. They have a big view qualifying activities chart that tells you exactly the things that you can do to be able to gain continuing education units and what you have to do. So we look through this. I'm going to make this so we can all see it. I can, let's go past the training, go to a training class. You don't even have to pass a certification. Just go to the class and you've got enough CEUs. Take a training course, complete a college course, teach a course, complete an accredited course, create instructional materials. Here it is. Attend a live webinar. You get 1 CEU per hour. During the 3-year cycle for A+, you can only get 4 of these. So you couldn't watch all of my replays and get enough CEUs. You get 4 of them, but you need 20 in a 3-year period. So that's not going to give you enough. You still have to do other things. But you can do this whether it's live or whether it's a replay. So this can be pre-recorded or live. So if you're watching this on the replay or you want to go back and watch my older ones you didn't attend live, I can give you CEU credits for that. And I just send you the email. You just send me the code word and I send you back an email. It's a digital certificate. That's all you need. And you send that off to CompTIA and that gives you that piece. There's a lot of different things you can do. Attend a conference. They make you go to these conferences. Well, you can actually get something for that. 1 hour, 1 CEU per hour in a session. Again, 4 CEUs for that 3-year period. So look through the list and you'll see all these different things. Just going to work gives you CEUs. So this may be easier than you think to renew. I think getting a CompTIA certification is the easiest and least expensive. And when you start measuring out the benefit, but also doing these individual CEUs are pretty simple to do as well, and just pay the maintenance fees and you keep that certification.
I see. So the easiest way is to just go get my Network Plus.
Yeah, if you're already working towards a Network Plus, past that, you've just renewed your A+, done. You don't even have to send anything in. You don't have to tell CompTIA about it. They'll just renew the A+ automatically.
Okay. Well, you've been very helpful, and I can't thank you enough for your effort.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks
really
for calling.
Professional.
I appreciate that. Thanks so much.
Have a good day.
You too.
You have a good day.
There's the renewal process has gotten a lot better than it was. It used to be relatively odd. They didn't spell everything out on the website. You kind of had to call them and find out more, but they've done a better job with this. And now they've kind of focused in on here's what you need to do. I think we've all gotten better at understanding what we need to do as well. I guess I should put the phone number up because we do have some lines open. If somebody would like to call in. We are, it's been a busy week. There's been a lot going on in the studio. I've been trying new equipment. I tried a new camera this week. I tried a new microphone this week, and I didn't like either of them. I was trying a boom mic because the mic here is in the shot. And it sounds, I love the sound of this mic. This is a Heil PR40 microphone. It's kind of an inside baseball, but we'll talk about it for a moment. Because I think we do the same thing with networking equipment a lot. This is a Heil PR40. I've used it for years and years and years. This is really the only mic I have used, and it sounds great. It's a great mic. It's a great sounding mic. When you go off axis, it's hard to hear what somebody is saying. So there could be something happening on the other side of the room. There's something on the other side of this wall that makes a noise. My hard drive array is back there spinning and making noise. You can't hear a thing. There's nothing there. I barely I type on here, and it's really hard to hear that as well. Tapping my keyboard right there. It's difficult to hear it. There, by the plastic part there. So great off-axis dampening, attenuation of that signal. It's fantastic. But I thought, let me get this thing out of the way. It would be nice to get rid of that piece. Didn't work out. Tried some boom mics, some shotgun mics. Didn't work. Too much room noise. So I'm sticking with this. It sounds great. The audio in my videos is the most important thing. The video is important. Audio is the most important. So if you're planning to make videos, get the best audio you can. The video should be the second thing you do. Let's go to the, this can't possibly be a 666 area code. So let's see who's at the other end of this call. Are you there, caller? What's your name? Are you there, caller? Say something, caller. What's your name?
Yeah. Hello.
Hello. What's your name?
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
My name is Dania.
Hi. How are you? What can we do for you today?
My name is Dania. Yeah. I'm the guy calling from Belgium.
Oh, very good. Welcome.
So, I want to thank you a lot. Yeah, I want to thank you a lot. Thank you for your video. I passed the exam 9 months ago. But now here in Belgium, the CompTIA A+ doesn't seem to be well known, you know. I have a couple of interviews for a job, but people, they keep saying, oh, sorry, but we don't know this. So I recommend you to go for Microsoft certification because here in Belgium, we don't know this certification. And the job offer that I get, they are from the UK or from Germany, you know.
Okay.
And then I'm in this situation because I'm studying for my Network Plus, but now I'm just saying, shall I continue with Network Plus or shall I go for another certification because here I have no opportunity at all?
It's a common question, and it's not something specific to Belgium. My Flemish is not very good, I'm afraid. So I'll try to be very clear. And you find this in the United States as well and other places, is that the certifications are for you. They are for you to be more knowledgeable, and they can help with the job hunting process. But you also have to find that connection where the employer is actually looking for that certification. There are some people you'll find on the internet that say, stop wasting your time with CompTIA, stop wasting your time with Cisco, go get a Microsoft cert. That's all you need to do, Microsoft. Or some people say, why are you wasting your time with Microsoft? Go get a Cisco cert. That's the one you should get. Some people are saying, why are you wasting your time with all those? Go get your A+ and Network Plus and Security Plus. They're all correct, and we're all wrong at the same time. The value of a certification is what you do with it. If you have employers and your goal is to get employed, don't turn this thing around and just start doing a bunch of certs and hope that they like them. You should go look at their job offerings. And I don't know what's used in Belgium for this, but here we have Monster, we have Dice, we have all these other websites like Indeed, where you can go out and see what are people asking for. And if you're in an environment, and certifications, quite honestly, are very regional, they're very geographical. So it may be in Belgium that Microsoft certifications are extremely important for whatever reason, and employers are looking for Microsoft. I think it makes sense for you to go get some Microsoft certifications if your goal is to get a job in Belgium. If you're looking, though, and they're saying, we don't need Microsoft, we need Cisco, maybe you should adjust your efforts. Now, on the other side of that is what you want to do with your life, because Microsoft and Cisco are two very different sets of certifications. One's very much into operating systems and enterprise management of those operating systems and being able to have applications running in those operating systems. And the other one is networking, pure networking, enterprise networking, wide area, local area, security, encryption, voice over IP. You got to decide what you want to do. Yeah. So make sure that you combine those two things together. Combine what people are looking for with what you want to do, because I assure you in IT, you can do a lot of different things, and you might as well pick the things that you're going to enjoy because you're going to be doing it for a very long time.
Yeah, but it was exactly my point. In the last interview, that he asked me a lot of questions and I answered all the questions. So then the only problem they are telling me my certification A+ is not well done in Belgium. and then they send me to do the Microsoft certification that is given. When I look in internet, they say, hey, listen, if you have A+, and you are studying for that, it's not worth to do MTA, Microsoft certification, because it's just design. But the certification is different, but it's design topic. So you have a wide knowledge with CompTIA.
It is. And they don't appreciate it. They don't understand why that certification.
This is the problem.
Yeah, it is a problem.
You know that, but you have to present a kind of paper, a certification. So in order to hire you, you have to present a certification here. And this one is not well known here. So I got a couple of jobs in London. I'm married in Belgium. I'm living with my wife here. I'm going to move to London.
And that's,
because London is well known.
It is, and that's one of the things I find too. In fact, there's some CompTIA certifications are well supported in places like the United Kingdom. And when you get to the United States, nobody's looking for those types of CompTIA certifications. It's the same wherever you go. There are some people, some manufacturers, some employers who don't want any certifications, which is even more frustrating, I think, for many of us. CompTIA has entry-level certs just prior to the A+ that in the United States, nobody even asks for, it seems. There is a little bit of people asking for MTA. So you have to look at the jobs that are being offered out there in the geographical area where you live to find out what people are really looking for. And it is frustrating because the A+ is something that's so well respected in almost everywhere around the world, but there's those little pockets of places where people don't tend to put a lot of, value or emphasis or concern on those pieces. Go to the employers, ask the employers what they're looking for. I think you're going to find out from there what direction you should go. I think that's your best line, your best approach.
Yeah, but now I'm about 1 month to take my Network Plus, and now I feel a little bit discouraged. I have to study so hard for that, and I don't know. And another thing that is bothering me all the time is that you got no experience. You got no experience, so they don't want to give you the opportunity because they need either somebody who's 5 years experience, either somebody who is already senior, and it's all the time. It's kind of frustrating.
I assure you there are people listening now and people in my chat room who are saying, yes, I have exactly the same problem, because everybody does have exactly that same problem. First, regarding you're working on Network Plus and you want to get through it, but you're concerned that nobody's going to care that you have the Network Plus. That, quite honestly, I don't care what they think. You should not care what they think, because once you have now, I think you would agree, when you pass your A+, and as you're learning and you pass your Network Plus, you're still going to know all this information. So whether they appreciate you knowing it or not is a secondary thing. You now have that knowledge, and when you get into a role, you're going to excel because you know those things. And I agree, it's frustrating that they don't appreciate that, but sometimes you have to work through that piece because certain employers are looking for different things. Now, as far as employers wanting experience, that's an age-old problem, I'm afraid. And some people will say, certification, you don't need a certification, you need experience. Or you don't need experience, you need, pick another thing. But it's not just one thing. It's never just one thing. Nobody's going to hire you just because you have experience. They're going to want to get you in the room and talk to you. If you're someone who can't communicate, they're not going to hire you no matter what experience you have. You have to be dressed nicely. You have to express during the interview, you have to express your answers in a way that people can appreciate. You have to relate to people. You do have to have some type of experience. And maybe that experience is not one that's paid. Maybe it's an internship. Maybe you're volunteering at a school or a group that does some type of nonprofit. It's a lot of places you could go that people would love to have you helping them with their computers and their networks. So I would recommend kind of thinking outside the box on that one, because all you need is, and another thing I'll mention, we have these in the States, this may be something in Belgium as well, is there are local user groups for Microsoft, for Cisco. There's some that are generic technology user groups, or you could even start one yourself. And that's a great way to meet people who are already working at these companies. And you'll find when you go into an interview, there's the people you know, or you can send them an email message and say, hey, I saw you at the user group. I'm going in for an interview with this person. Do you have any recommendations for me? Making those connections can be just as important as your experience, can be just as important as your certifications, if not more so.
Okay, that's great. Okay, listen, for me, it's okay. This is what I wanted to hear, So I don't need to care about the people or what they think. So I just need to continue my study. I need to go for Network Plus, and I need to do it for myself, to get the certification. So somebody will appreciate it one day.
I think that ultimately that's the right way to go. You just keep driving, keep learning, keep working on those things, and you'll find they're going to come back to you eventually.
Okay. Thank you very much for your support, Professor.
Good luck. Let us know how it goes.
Okay, have a good day.
You too. There is it's the constant battle with getting a job, no matter at what level you're going to be at, whether it's entry level, the job after that, the job after that. The first thing when I went into my last job, they want to know experience. What experience do you have? We're a small organization. We're growing quickly. We need somebody who knows what they're doing. What do you know? Hey, I got a certification. I don't think they cared. I think they want to know more, but everybody has a different emphasis. And even if they don't care about the certifications I had the knowledge of those certifications, and that certainly helped me when I was getting into that piece. Let's go to 585. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
Hi, my name's Braden.
Hello, Braden. What can we do for you today?
I'm working on studying for my 802 currently.
Okay.
I'm wondering, with taking your practice tests and everything, what sort of score do you want to achieve before you actually go and bite the bullet, take the actual test?
I mean, you want 100, right? You want to be able to get that exact number. But you're never going to get perfection, no matter what you're working on, especially with a certification exam. And one of the challenges you have with a lot of sample exams is they're not going to be representative 100% of what you're going to see on the actual exam, nor would you really expect them to be. But what you want to do is at least get the majority. And this is complicated a bit by the grading system that CompTIA uses. So if you look at their grading system, you get a score between 100 and 900. What is that? I have what are you doing? I don't even understand already what the grading score system is. So the lowest number you can get is a 100, and the highest number you can get is 900. And your passing score, well, for your 802 is what, a 700. Well, how many questions do I need to get right and get wrong? You still don't know, because apparently, as far as we know, every question tends to be worth a different amount of points. So you effectively, I guess, you're starting at 100, and every question you get right, you're getting more questions up to, you get up to a 700 and above to pass this. So I can't even tell you if you go through 100 questions and you get this many right and you get this percentage correct, you're ready for the exam, because I really can't do that either. So it's more of, I think, a best guess. If you're getting somewhere in the 80 to 90% range correct when you sit down and take a 90 question or 100 question sample exam, you're getting pretty close to where hopping into the exam and taking it would probably be a pretty good idea. It's really a guessing game, which is why I never tell people take exams until you get a certain percentage right. I always say go back to the exam objectives. If you can go through each one of those exam objectives and explain them to yourself or to someone else, you can check that one off and go to the next thing. And if you can go through all of the exam objectives, and you've got 85 to 90% of the exam objectives down cold, you can go in and take that exam and pass it without breathing hard. It's never going to be an exact science, but I think that's a pretty good barometer of how ready you are to go in and take the exam.
Okay. I mean, I went and took my A+. I passed that, but when I went to go schedule my test, I never knew when I would feel confident enough. It was a struggle when going to actually schedule the exam.
I never feel confident enough.
I didn't feel confident walking into it.
I never feel confident enough walking in. I'm always walking in the door wondering, should I have studied a little bit more for this one? I'm never quite sure because it's an unknown. You're never quite certain. Most of the time when you've done all the right things, you've gone through the sample exams, you've watched the videos, you've read through the book, you've gone through the exam objectives, you've done all the right things. So it's more a fear of the unknown, I think, when you're walking in the door. And if you've done all of those things, I think you'll sit down and you'll do just fine. You're never going to be 100%. You just kind of have to live with that when you're walking in. I'm more of a perfectionist. I like it to be exactly right whenever you put something out there, but nothing's going to be 100% exact. So do the best you can. Do all the right legwork on the outside, and then when you're ready to walk in, you're not only feel that you did all the right things, there's actually a level of confidence you have when you walk in the door.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, one small question: what route would you go after the A+? I mean, I have half the people telling me go just get directly into Microsoft.
Right.
Some people are telling me go N+, S+.
I would recommend doing what I've done my entire career and ignore everyone. The only person who knows what you should be doing next is yourself. And once you get through the A+ and perhaps even the Network Plus, I think the Network Plus is a great exam to get through and take and pass as well. But there's pluses and minuses there. But I think once you get through those, you have a pretty good idea of what technologies are most interesting for you. Maybe you love the hardware. Maybe you found that the operating systems are really a great thing. You kind of connect with those. Maybe you find that looking at protocols going over the network is the coolest thing ever. Maybe you like security and what it's doing. You're going to feel a pull in one of those directions, and you're going to find yourself moving more into those types of roles. So once you finish A+, let's do the big two that people say is you should take Microsoft, you should take Cisco. I think that's a pretty good jumping off point because you could pick one of those, but they are very, as I mentioned earlier, very different. Microsoft is so operating system intense. Cisco has nothing to do with operating systems. Microsoft is a little bit of networking, but nothing like the amount of networking you're going to be doing on Cisco. So if you're going to do a jumping off point, there's pluses and minuses there. And if you have a leaning either way, you'll know what direction to go. One thing to keep in mind, of course, is that whatever you choose to do today in technology is not what you're going to do tomorrow. I started off in computer operations and mainframe operations. I moved into effectively a break fix, hard drive upgrades, memory upgrades role. I moved from there to corporate help desk, and then moved into operating systems, and then moved into networking heavy, and then moved into security. Now, if I, in my security role, I look back and say, when I was installing hard drive upgrades, would I've ever seen myself in network security? No, I had no idea what a network was. I didn't understand operating systems. It was, in fact, in that role is when I first installed the Novell network operating system. I thought, this is interesting. I would have never thought I would have gotten there. So whatever you plan for, you should have a plan, but also understand that plan you may just be pulled another direction by the winds, by the way the current is going, by the way things go in the industry. 10 years ago, nobody was doing VMware. Why would you want to do virtualization? Virtualization, we don't do virtualization. Now there's nothing but virtualization. So that's another great path to go. That everybody wants, that everybody's growing, that's becoming even more mainstream, that suddenly popped up in 10 years. It didn't exist before that. Well, it did sort of in the mainframe world. For those of you that want to send me emails later, I understand that piece. But in the IT PC world, that was a huge change in the industry. And there will be another change over the next 10 years. Something else will come along that will be the greatest thing ever that none of us today, nobody you work with, nobody you know, nobody who's in IT has any knowledge at all about it. So if nobody knows about it, what a great opportunity for you to start learning about it. And that's when you're going to start catching on and doing more. But that was sort of a long answer to what a very simple question was, is do what you want, because ultimately that's where you're going to get the most out of it. And you should at least be happy when you're doing things at work, I think.
Okay. Thank you so much for all of your answers and all of your insight and your videos.
Good luck with that. I appreciate it. Thanks for watching.
All right, thank you.
Good luck. Take care. There's so much to that, though. Everybody says be happy. Do it. Make sure, and you should. You should absolutely find something in your career that you're going to be pleased with. I've had jobs I was not happy. You're not going to pick right every time. I seem to do every other job seems to have a problem for me, but you're going to be on the right path. You're going to know what you want to do. I can't think of many other industries out there that give you that level of flexibility. You can't go into manufacturing and you're going to be doing manufacturing. But if you're doing IT and manufacturing, there's so many things you can do. Databases, security, networking, operating systems. Just pick what you want to do or do all of them. Why not? Because you can, because it's IT. You can pick what you want to do. 803, are you there, caller? What's your name?
Hi, my name is Quentin Curry.
Hey, how are you? Is it Quentin?
Yes, sir.
How are you, sir?
Pretty good. So, excuse me. Recently, my job required us to become certified in your choice of CompTIA certification. That's A+, Network Plus, Security Plus, what have you. And I went with A+, thinking that it would be the easier one.
Yes.
And, no, not at all. That's not the case.
Well,
I went in the first time because they gave us free vouchers to take the test.
Wow.
And I went in, I kind of went in blind just to see what I knew, and I came close to passing it, but
okay.
I mean just barely passing, but came close to passing. And then I took it a second time, and I actually scored lower. And the reason was because my testing methods were horrible. I believe I flagged over half of the test. And then before you know it, I was just going back carefully through each question, making sure that was the best choice.
Right.
And before you know it, my time dwindled down, and I was out of time. And
right.
I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
It goes fast.
Yeah, it does. I mean, so my primary question is, for taking the test, should I skip, or should I just give my best guesstimate and flag to come back to that question?
Everybody has a different philosophy on how to handle the testing process, and it is kind of a personal one. I mentioned earlier, I flag everything, but what I try to scream through the questions. I'm going really, really fast. Kind of my style is to scream through them, answer, flag. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. I think it's this. I think it's this. I think it's this, and I get all the way to the end. And then I go back and slowly go through the ones that I was not 100% about. I don't know that works for everybody, but that's sort of my style. So what I end up checking, because I do it if I'm not 100%, well, almost, I would say 70 to 80% of my questions are flagged. I look at the end and everything's got an M next to it, meaning it was marked. I'm thinking I know I got to go back through everything, but that's sort of my style. And then I go back. But it's also a time management thing. If you're not someone who can go through those quickly, or you don't want to, and you would rather do them slowly and never see the question again, then maybe it makes more sense to do it that way. But you're right, time is a problem on this exam, especially since you have these performance-based questions at the beginning that they're now asking you to perform a task. It's not a simple A, B, C, D, and you're done. Go to the next one. You now have to go to the command line or fill in the blank or match different things or put things in order from fastest to slowest or from slowest to fastest or whatever it is. It's more of a personal philosophy of taking the exam that you really have to figure out works for you. I like the idea of using that mark button and taking advantage of it. I think you're doing the right thing, that if you aren't certain of it, mark it. What you don't want to do is leave one blank. So if you're getting close to the end of the exam at least mark something. You don't get anything off for answering one incorrectly. You don't get negative points for answering incorrectly, but you absolutely don't get points if you put nothing in. It's a wasted question. You should at least guess on these questions where you don't have something there. So if you're getting close to the end, make sure you filled in at least everything so you don't leave one blank. You do not want to leave one blank on the CompTIA exam.
Okay, by you saying that, I mean, it kind of comes off that you can't answer wrong, but I know you can.
Sure.
So it seems as if, it only counts everything that you get right. Even if I was to get an answer wrong, that's not even counting. I mean, of course, you get 0 for a wrong answer.
Right. It just doesn't help you.
Yeah, it just doesn't help. And one of my biggest concerns about the test, and this is my last question, is I'm looking at your videos. I purchased the study guide offline and
Thank you.
online, and I mean, some of the stuff like upgrading Windows and learning the operating systems there. I think I learned that in a day just by memorizing that graph.
Great.
But simulations, I'm trying to see what is a good resource for studying simulations. The simulations are completely like when I went in blind and I saw some of the simulations, I was like, hold up.
Right.
I mean, I may have talked about this or I may have saw some of this material, but I didn't know that we would actually have to do some of the simulation. Like, it's just random to me.
It kind of is in a way. And these what CompTIA calls performance-based questions are a way to make these certification exams give you more practical applications so that in a way that makes the exams a little more difficult and in another way certainly more respected because of that. They just didn't want an exam people could memorize every question, walk in and answer them. Nobody wants that. There's the biggest challenge, I think, will be getting through some of these performance-based questions. But if you know the topics at hand and you understand, for instance, let's take one. Let's say they give you a command that says you need to go to the command prompt and you need to ping this IP address constantly until you tell it to stop. So there's a certain flag in Windows that does that. But if you've already memorized that, you can kind of apply those things to the command line. But I think, to your point, there's something about doing it that locks it in your brain. There's something about typing it into the prompt myself, going through the lab and testing those that really helps. There's not a lot of options on the internet to help with those because nobody knows what those performance-based questions are until you walk into the exam. And by the time you found out what they are, you've already signed a document that says you won't tell anybody what they are. There's a non-disclosure there. So I always recommend going through the GTS Learning Live labs because those are labs that step you through scenarios and show you how to perform those functions in a Windows environment so that you have a familiarity of those. And maybe the doing of it, the tactile response of the keyboard and viewing it on the screen will lock it into your brain a little bit better. And you can try those at least for an hour for free, so that at least gives you an option. And I think it's $99 for 12 months worth of that. So it's not a huge investment for something that would always be available in labs that are already set up for you to walk through. I think it's just a matter of doing it. It's a matter of take a computer apart yourself and put it back together. Install Windows in a virtual environment. That's why in my videos, I show me installing Windows using VirtualBox. So it's a free software. You load it on your system, and now I'm installing Windows. Anybody can do that as long as you have a Windows install disk. So I want people to be able to duplicate that. Even though they're watching a static video, you could do it yourself. And I think people should. The more you do hands-on in the operating system, hands-on with the hardware, the easier these tests are going to be for you.
Right. I completely believe that, sir. I definitely appreciate it. I think your study sessions, some of your study sessions I looked at before, but I wasn't actually a part of the live study session. This was the first time I was in it, and we used, I believe, when it was Socrates, I believe.
Right, the Socratic piece.
And it worked. Yeah, it worked well, and I got some of the answers correct, and how you studied, how you went over each question, whether it was wrong or right, was a big help. So I definitely appreciate it, sir.
It's knowing why it wasn't right that is almost as important as understanding why you got the one correct that was right.
Right.
Yep, I agree.
Right.
I agree. It's an important part of it. Well, good luck with the studying, of course. And I mentioned this to everybody, but it's open. The contact us link is at the top of my site. If you run into something else that's a problem or a question or something that's bugging you, you can always send me a note there or go to the chat room on the website. There's always one of us hanging out in there willing to help.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Quentin. Good luck with your studies.
Thank you.
That's one of the biggest challenges with the exam. You just don't know what you're going to get till you walk into it. And then, boom, it hits you right there. Let's go to, we're into our second hour, into our third hour. Let's talk to, we still got people on the line. 404 area code. Are you there, caller? What's your name? It's silence. It's 404. Say something, 404. It may not be 404, so just say something if you're on the phone.
Hello.
Hello. What's your name?
My name is Matthew Edward. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm trying to take exam on 201, and I want to know that which the best book, self-study book is for the.
You have asked probably one of the top 3 questions I get on a daily basis, I think, which is, what book should I be getting? And there's no single answer to this, by the way. When I first studied for my A+ certification, I studied, I think, probably from 3 different books. And I started with one book. I don't even remember which one it was. This was back in the 600 series exam. And I studied from one book, and I got all the way through it. And it was kind of dry for me. It didn't click with me. And you've probably had this yourself, where you're reading through a book and you're not clicking with the book. You're not there. You're not enjoying it. You're not getting anything out of it, or it's difficult. And I got all the way through that book. And then I shifted. I got another book and I started reading through that one from the very beginning. And for whatever reason, the second book, I could really get it better. And I guess you could say, well, you've already gone through one book. You already kind of figured half of the material out. But the second book really, it was easier read for me. And I mentioned this to someone else. They go, yeah, I tried that book. I really didn't like it, but I liked this one. So I don't think that there is a particular one book I could tell someone, this is the absolute best book you should possibly get for this. But there are a number of books that are pretty good. I like, and I promote on my website, the GTS Learning books. And I promote those primarily because those are the ones I use to make my videos. If you want to go through a book that lays it out in a matter-of-fact form and gives you exactly what you need to know to pass the exam, the GTS Learning books are a very good example of that. I think they're well written. And as I mentioned, they give me the book and then I build my videos from what's in their book. So that's the only resource that I use now is the GTS Learning book. There are other good books out there. Some people like Exam Cram. They have their own book that they go through. Some people like the Mike Myers series of books. Some people like the Cybex books. It depends on who you ask for. I recommend you go to Amazon and read through some of them because the actual book contents are there and you can get a sample of that book and see if that one looks good and feels good to you when you're reading through it. I will say the GTS Learning books, by the way, even the physical book, we've embedded my videos in the physical book as well. There's a QR code. And as you're reading the book, if you're not understanding something about what you're reading, there's a QR code that you can click with your mobile device. You can take a picture of that and it pops up the video of mine that's specific to what you're reading in the book. It's the only book like that that's on the market. So there's a lot of people on the website are saying, yeah, I like this one. I like this book. So we're already getting people that are giving their opinions of it well. So I would say try to read a few of them, even if it's just samples of each one, and read some of the what people are saying on Amazon, because there's some great reviews out there as well if you can sift through those.
Okay, I've been watching your videos since last year. It's very helpful. I appreciate you what you do, Professor. Thank you very much.
I appreciate that as well. Thanks for calling.
Bye-bye.
We are now at the 2 hour and 10 minute mark. So we're getting close to my abilities to communicate with other human beings. My throat's held out pretty well this time though, and I think that's my biggest challenge for doing one of these. It helps when I get a lot of calls. I can listen and not have to talk so much. There's a lot going on at Messer Studios over the coming weeks. There's a lot that we're working on. This has been just one of those things. A reminder, next week we have our Network Plus study group where we do the same type of thing where I ask you the questions, you see if you can answer them. It's all about the Network Plus certification. I've also got we're started work. The new Network Plus certification is out. So for those of you that are moving from A Plus to Network Plus, there'll be some new videos that are coming out as well. So we're ramping up production and there's editing going on and people are writing transcripts and there's so much happening here to make that happen. And there's even more projects I'm working on that I haven't even told anyone about. So it's always interesting what's happening here. We want to thank you for joining us on the study group today. We would not be able to make this happen if it wasn't for your support of the videos and you joining us live. It wouldn't be any good for me to ask questions and not get any answers back. That would be the worst study group ever. And in fact, you guys make it the best study group ever. So thanks for joining us and being here live. If you're watching the replay, again, don't forget the secret code to send me for your CEUs. And we will absolutely plan on doing another one of these next month. Make sure you check the calendar link at the top of the Professor Messer website to know exactly when that will be as well. Thanks for joining us this time, and we'll see you next time on the study group. Thanks, everyone.